Welcome back with Candid With. We have been getting to know Peter Champagnie. Before the break, we found out about young Peter and his experiences in the early stages of his life. And we move on to focus on the early stages of his career. So, Mr. Champagnie, you studied law. Was it in Jamaica or did you go to Barbados?
It was a combination. Back then, you had to spend 2 years in Barbados, and I did that.
How was that experience?
I didn't like it. It was my first time going on an airplane. I missed Jamaica terribly. I missed home terribly. I didn't like it. I didn't like being there. But maybe again, because of limited resources and so on. They treated me well there, but I just didn't like it. It wasn't Jamaica.
Was there any point while you were studying that you said to yourself, why am I doing this? This is not what I want to do. No. I was focused, and it was a means to an end as well, to try and get some economic stability. And thankfully, before my mom passed, I was able to assist her in that regard. What was that like, though? You had now become at a stage where I can help mommy. Talk to me about,
the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was marvelous. The greatest joy, I remember she had an old pickup Toyota, and it would give a lot of trouble. And she was very, she wasn't demanding or anything like that. And I was able to buy her a brand new pickup. And that to me was the greatest joy that I would have.
She was at your graduation?
Yes.
Talk to me about that when she saw you.
She wasn't that kind of person that wore her emotions on her sleeve. She was my biggest critic. So she would see me doing an interview on TV, for instance, or something about some case. And she would call and say, you're sure you're eating right? You look a little slim. Your eyes red. You're taking your drops. That kind of thing. And that was her. I mean, she would get stopped by the police, and she'd engage the police in a conversation, take the traffic ticket, write it up, and so on, and say, by the way, see a picture of my son here, you know him? And the officer would say, but why we could have exercised a discretion when you should have told me that before? And she said, no, not like that. So that was her. So she wasn't somebody that demonstrated that kind of emotion to me. I think because boy picnic, you want him to be tough. You don't want to be too soft, and she's the only parent there. So I think that was her game plan in terms of making sure that I was on good standing. But
she was proud.
Let me tell you, I think the moment when I realized it was when she passed, and they brought her handbag to me, and I was taught by her never to go into a lady's handbag. I don't know why, but that was the rule. And I went through her bag, and I saw newspaper clippings with cases with me. Speechless.
Yes. So she was proud, and she kept it in her purse. But let's talk now about your early career in law. Nobody knew who Peter Champagnie was. Where did you start?
I started out in the chambers of George Suter and Tom Tavares Vince in 1995. And it was a criminal defense chambers. It was strong chambers, and I learned a lot from them. And then as time progressed, after 14 years, I went on my own, and I started to develop a little bit more confidence. And I think what really had put me on the map after that was really one of the West Kingston Commission of Inquiries. That was, I think, the first time that persons got a glimpse of me and perhaps my presentation. And then after that, it became more frequent in terms of public appearances and cases and so on. And I just never looked back. I just put my all into it. I gave it my all, but at the same time, not compromising my principles.
And what would have been, or what would you say was your first major legal breakthrough? Was it the Commission of Inquiry?
No, I will tell you this. Back in the early 80s, the atmosphere was highly politically charged. And therefore, you had a lot of cases that were perhaps behind it all was fight for turf in terms of politics, gangs and so on. And I think I developed a practice in certain communities in terms of clientele, and that propelled me. And then it was always a case of the police locking up those set of persons, if you want to call those persons that, which, you know, I resented. And then the script flipped. The police got into trouble and were charged. And then they started to come to me, and I said, well, I must be doing something good if my arch enemy is coming to me for assistance. And that is really what propelled me up the ladder, if you want to call it a ladder.
You are notable, yes. A noted defense lawyer. Was that always what you wanted to do? Because there's corporate law. I mean, was that always what you wanted?
Yes, because it didn't require at the time, in my mind, too much intelligence. Because I wasn't particularly bright, and I don't really regard myself as particularly bright, and there are a lot of persons who may agree with that. But I did my summer intern at a bank. I did very well, and when I was leaving and announced that I was going into criminal law, they were very upset with me. But it's kind of boring, you know, you're behind a desk, you're not able to relate to persons, you're not able to have the flair of the courtroom and the adrenaline. I can't say that I can go home and say I did an affidavit today and it was great. And this banking document was great, first class, 12 pages. No, that's not me. And I'm not being disrespectful to my colleagues at the civil bar. Let me just say that.
This question here is very interesting. What sacrifice did you make to build your career that people know about you?
Not going to parties, not enjoying life, not much time with my young family. And really being devoted, because law is, they say, a jealous mistress, especially if you're a criminal defense lawyer. It requires a lot of time. So it is just now, in my latter years, I've been able to relax a bit and take it easy. But those were the elements in terms of the sacrificial moments that I had to endure.
What sort of setbacks did you face along the way or along the journey?
In law? Mm-hmm. There were moments when, you know, you really believe that you should have won a particular case, and, you know, you felt really done over in terms of the process. And I'm not speaking about the justice system. I'm just talking about, you know, how the case unfolded, or usual combat in court with your adversary. But beyond that, not really any setbacks. And that is why I say, and I repeat it, I've been very, very blessed, and I'm very grateful.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Champagnie, you've seen people at some of the lowest points in their lives. What have those experiences taught you about second chances?
You're never to give up. Never to give up. And, you know, nothing lasts forever. You may think that you have a problem and it's going to be there and it's going to destroy you. Nothing lasts forever. So you never ever give up. Persevere.
You lose a case, the client is disappointed. Is that is this part of the discussion that you have with them? Yes,
and sometimes, you know, you can see it going in that direction. So you kind of brace for impact in terms of making sure that you do your best in terms of the moment it comes for mitigating arguments. But at the same time, you never give up, because there have been cases where I believe that this is going to go a particular way, and it turns out that it's the opposite.
But if
the important thing is always to be prepared, always to be sharp.
But I would say, okay, if I'm going to hire Peter Champagnie, I have to win.
You see, I keep saying to some persons, I am not a magician. And any lawyer, anywhere in the world, who tells you that he or she has never lost a case, they perhaps only have done 3 in their lifetime, you will lose some. But the important thing is to win far more than you lose.
Is there any case, looking back, that that you were really disappointed in the outcome? Is there any one case that stands out for you?
I remember a case where this young man was charged for murder on a bus with a conductor. He killed the conductor. And I genuinely believe that it was self-defense. And it was one of my first murder trials. And I lost it. The jury came back and found him guilty. And I ended up actually crying in court afterwards, and it was the registrar at the time who came and consoled me. But thankfully, the Court of Appeal, when it went on appeal, they reduced it resulted in a manslaughter outcome, and therefore he was able to get out much quicker than before in terms of the original sentence. So that was one case that stood out in my mind. I can't think of any other right now.
Looking back at when you started to now,
yes,
what gives you hope in our justice system in general?
Can I tell you this? I think that our system has improved tremendously. Tremendously. I think we have the brightest set of judges in the Caribbean. And I say this based on my recent experience when I went to Belize as part of a contingency in terms of representing Jamaica at an international, national, regional symposium on criminal justice reform. And I'm here to say that when I compared their system in terms of their laws, in terms of their practices, in terms of their, the overall system of justice there in other jurisdictions, not Belize, I'm talking about other Caribbean territories, and Belize in some instances too, we are very, very way ahead. And a lot of persons don't recognize that especially with this new Chief Justice, there have been remarkable improvements. There are faults and there are problems, but far less than when I started.
All right, we're getting to know Peter Champagnie, one of Jamaica's most prolific lawyers. Candid with. We'll be right back after these messages.